the feedback that we've gotten, not all of it, but most of the feedback that we've gotten from our customers, from our fans, has been positive on the experience. So we now know that we are well set up for the next step, which is somewhere between ESPN Plus as a complimentary service at $11.99 and linear television, whether it's a digital MVPD like Hulu Live or YouTube TV or satellite or cable bundle. There's an opportunity in between, and so that's where flagship comes into play. And yes, it is incredibly important to us. It is a top priority for ESPN. It's a top priority for the Walt Disney Company. Bob has repeatedly said that one of his core priorities at Disney is to continue the evolution of ESPN. I look for every day I get out of bed and I say to myself one thing. This is true, my wife will tell you. I get out of bed and I say to myself, I have to earn this today because I feel just fortunate to be here. So last thing I'd say is we are in a really important time at ESPN right now, like incredibly important. And it's not just about flagship, but flagship is probably the most important new initiative that we are going to be launching, and I'm incredibly excited to be a part of it.
Research shows us that we're serving a different sports fan today, and as such, our brand does have to evolve. And it's not just demographic differences, it's what they are consuming. They are multi-dimensional. We started as a cable network, but what we've been able to do is successfully transition to be seen as a digital-first brand among younger consumers. We're reaching 113 million users a month. We were #1 again, and you're probably sitting here thinking, like, why are you mentioning July? Because this was the first month that ESPN Digital has been able to maintain their #1 position during an Olympics month. For me, there's no other greater proof point of our digital scale and that we're the preeminent digital brand, no matter what our rights are, no matter what the calendar is. Now, I just talked about our digital scale. That doesn't include our social handles. So ComScore now is able to give us an unduplicated reach of digital across digital and social. And so when you add, again, I don't want to block the chart, when you add our social handles on top of our digital reach, that 113 million that I mentioned jumps to 184 million. Now, if you're like me, I can't remember numbers, percentages work. That translates to 67% of the US adult population. I'm going to say that again. ESPN Digital with social is reaching 67% of the US adult population, not just sports fans. And when you look at it among people 18 to 49, we're reaching 82% of adults 18 to 49 in the United States. Now, unfortunately with ComScore, I can't track people under the age of 18. And I hate that as a researcher. But I can tell you with all confidence that because of our social handles, our brand continues to maintain relevancy among Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And it's going to be critical in us maintaining that connection as their consumption evolves. And here to walk you through our strategy is my colleague, Omar Raja.
Hi everybody, I'm Omar Raja. I would say I started my sports media journey about 10 years ago when I was in my college dorm room and started an Instagram account called House of Highlights. That account changed my life. I grew up to 50 million followers. We had all these big athletes following us. The main idea behind that was finding ways to reach younger fans. People my age that were sharing funny moments. We would meme all these types of content and we would send it to each other. And so for me, my social media journey was very much about reaching those types of people that were my age in college, sharing memes, sharing that type of content. So luckily that account did pretty well, so I ended up at ESPN. And I have a unique role at the company. Half of my job, I like to think, is a social media strategist where I am optimizing content, finding ways to reach the most amount of people. The other half is a content creator. So if you follow me on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, you're gonna see me bringing you behind the scenes to the NBA Finals, a WWE wrestling match with Logan Paul, a Jake Paul match, or even the Super Bowl. So it's been a pretty fun ride, and we've had a bunch of cool sports properties to play with over here at ESPN. Now, as Jimmy said, one of the main things that we are really proud of right now is that we've become the #1 media brand on TikTok. Not just sports media brand, #1 media brand on TikTok, period. And I think the way that we've been very unique and confident in our strategy is that we have created a custom strategy for the platform. So as you can see here on the left and right, you're going to see Bronny James edits. The moment he gets drafted, it's not just him, the broadcast angle of him being drafted. We are now changing his USC jersey into a Lakers jersey. We are bringing fans closer to the scene with a cell phone footage. It's very similar to what you're going to see on an Instagram story if you're a fan. You're seeing cell phone content, cell phone content, cell phone content. So it might look a little weird if you're seeing an 8K camera. So we like to bring fans closer to the scene by using mobile content. So that's why this strategy works so well. You can see all these different types of examples of us storytelling, bringing fans closer, but also having our own unique spin on how we create content. Now, what you're also going to see is that we have 37 months as the most engaged brand, social brand in sports. The way we've been able to do that is having a custom strategy for all our platform. As Flora said, July 2024 marked the 37th consecutive month, and we had 725 million engagements in the month. ESPN Social generated 92% more engagement than NBC Universal did during the 24 Summer Olympics, which is wild to think about because we did not have broadcast rights. And so we were able to make a custom strategy, but some of it was screen grabbing, some was our own storytelling, some of it was taking fan sentiment and fan reaction and bringing it into our coverage, and that really resonated. And so it was a cool moment that Flora was kind of noting of our own little history at ESPN. Now, we've also had some big swings over the last couple of years. I think they're very unique. The first one I'll talk about is SportsCenter Next. We consider that to be our high school brand. The idea is to elevate, your everyday moments in high school sports and youth culture. So the way that's a little bit different is normally you're used to your traditional highlights, your unique plays, your scholarship offers, maybe a notable college commitment, or a key game result. I think the thing that's unique about SportsCenter Next is we're also talking about the culture aspect of things. So we're talking about fashion, we're talking about family dynamics with maybe a coach, or waking up late for school, things that your everyday young athlete may relate to. I think that is a big part of the SportsCenter Next brand, very relatable, something that you can see, maybe say, oh, that person's just like me, or hey, that person sends a piece of content and says, this is us, this is what we do every single day. Currently the brand has 5.3 million total followers. SC Next actually reached 1 million followers on Instagram last month. So it's a big priority for us to reach young fans. The other way we're reaching younger fans is our creator network. So this is our second iteration of the creator network. This year we had 9 female creators, and we brought them to 13 different ESPN events. Some were Super Bowls, some were the ESPYs, some were the NBA playoffs. We launched the creator network as part of our strategy to engage younger fans through social media. And with these creators, we have provided them unprecedented access to our properties, but we've also kind of learned from them of what's their strategy? What do they think of ESPN? How do they engage in sports content? And then even after all these creators may come to our events and engage with all of our content.
Information into our fans' organic journey. We're not sticking it in the corner of the product somewhere and hoping that our fans find it, but we're integrating it into where they go every day. So that means they might see it on our home feed, we'll be on our game pages, we'll be on scoreboards, we'll be in Fight Center. So when you're watching UFC live from the Sphere on ESPN Plus, you'll be able to go to Fight Center and see the odds for that event. We're also taking advantage of sports holidays, in this case, in this example, looking at Tournament Challenge, to bring unique offers from ESPN Bet. I'll walk you through this experience that you'll be able to see. So the first thing you'll notice is the new navigation item in the top of the app that brings where to watch front and center for our fans. And just to call out, while I'm using the ESPN app in this example, just because that was the easiest thing to put on the slides, it's also available on the desktop and available on mobile web as well. So the nice thing about having this icon is where to watch is always one tap away for our fans. So whether they're on our home screen, maybe they're on scores, they could be in the watch section, they could be in ESPN Plus, no matter where they are in the product, they're only one tap away from discovering where to watch their favorite teams play. Once you tap into the experience, you'll notice a couple things. First, it's intentionally simple, but it's very powerful. Where to watch is divided into two sections. The first section is your favorites. All the products that we build at ESPN, we try to lead with personalization to just really help fans find their favorite teams first, and we do that with this product as well. So your favorites are indicated with a star next to their team. But let's say you haven't selected favorites yet, or let's say you want to change your favorites around, you can manage that directly within Where to Watch. The next thing you'll notice is as you scroll past your favorites, is a time-based guide that shows all the events that are happening that day, anytime, anywhere. These aren't just words that we say, they're just not things that we put up in the hallway, but it's something we think about every day and we apply to our work. And I just wanted to get a chance to share a couple of these examples with you and really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Hi everyone, we are so thankful that you guys are here. I just want to say we appreciate your work so much. I'm Laura Rutledge, this is obviously Jason Kelce and Nick Saban. We're so happy that you're here today, and it means a lot to us that you would show up here. I know it's a trip for some, and we are just really thankful for your presence and the great work that you do. We're going to get to the serious stuff, but first of all, did Miss Terry really get mad at you about that because you don't ask her to dance? Because I think, Coach, you need to work on that if you're not asking her to dance.
I think so. But one of the things we did when we were growing up in West Virginia, they took the fire trucks out of the fire department, put the record player in, and that was the big social event. So,
That sounds like fun.
since we've grown up, we kind of lost touch. So,
You're gonna, I'm sure you'll take dancing lessons soon. If you do, let us know. We'd like to
I can
film
step
that.
through it now. It's not that I
Oh.
can step through it, yeah.
All right, later on, Nick Saban's going to give a dancing class. Are you and Kylie doing a lot of dancing, or is that?
I'm dancing with my girls every single day, it seems like, to something. Whether it's on the TV or I just got to keep them occupied, get them up off the couch. They're, Wyatt, she'll dance to anything. Benny's my favorite one to dance with right now because she's in that like Tyler stage where she kind of looks like she's just drunk all the time and wobbling around,
I know it well.
not too sure of herself. So, yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
When you shot that promotion for Monday Night Football, how many takes did you do? You've done a lot of this now, but how many takes did it take to get to that raspy voice level that you were at?
Unfortunately, that is just the sound of my voice. I got a lot of rasp. It helps in some instances, but not all. There was a lot of takes, but not too many because we had to go on and we were doing the Canton game,
Right.
that Hall of Fame game that night. So I got pulled out of there. So it's always good when you have a heart out.
Yeah.
But it turned out great. It was really fun. I wish there was another camera angle of Van Pelt from this side when he came in at the buttons. And as we were doing it, I was like almost cracking up every time just looking at him. So I wish that would have stayed in there, but it's a great
We need an outtakes for that.
Oh, yeah.
So we are going to open this up for questions soon. So if you have a question, raise your hand at any time. We'll bring you the microphone, and we can't wait to interact with y'all and hear your questions. Coach, you've had a chance to now do a couple game days. You did the draft, really cold. Then you did the Dublin show, and you did SEC Media Days with us. What are your impressions so far on just the nitty-gritty television life that maybe you didn't know before?
Well, I think probably the biggest adjustment for me is thinking like a coach.
Yeah.
You know, when you think like a coach, you're always thinking about process, you're always thinking about what do I have to do to get the outcome. And we have to be a little bit more outcome oriented to create some interest to some degree, I think. But I'm still going to try to stay in that process-oriented type of approach to, what we do, because I think it's interesting to people to kind of know what happens behind the scenes. ESPN is kind of an iconic brand, which is great to be involved with so many people, and how ESPN has elevated, the interest in all sports, but especially college sports. When I was a kid growing up, there was one game a week on TV on Saturday, and that was it. And so this has been fantastic for players, for fans, for the game itself. So, and I appreciate, even though sometimes I wasn't so nice to the media when I was coaching, all that you all have done to elevate and promote the game, and I think ESPN has been a big part of that.
It's worth remembering too that we now hold the rights to the SEC, so all of the SEC games will be on ESPN and ABC, the Disney family of networks. Really excited about that, as well as our big presence in the college football playoff, owning those rights as well. My favorite story about you transitioning into television was actually at the Masters. We do a show called Welcome to the Masters, and Coach was kind enough to come on, and you may not remember this, but we did our interview, and then we were going to something else, and we had transitioned differently because you came. We were like, we're just going to blow everything off because that's what you do for Nick Saban and Jason Kelce, obviously. So I did something different. We went to break, and immediately he asked me, what happened there? What were they saying in your ear? How did you know where to go? And I thought, oh my God, he's really interested in the TV part and how this all works. And the reality was, it was all craziness in my ear, and it was like my brain was scrambled eggs. But I thought that was a really great indicator of how dedicated, which no one doubted that, but how dedicated you would be to this.
Well, I think, Jason probably, being a competitor, being players, being in competition for so many years, you really want to do things well.
Yeah.
And now this is a new gig, to use my term that I use in Ireland, and so there's a lot to learn about it so that you can do it well. And it's very challenging, which, I like the challenge, but I also have a lot of pride in performance, which I know you do. You couldn't play at the level you did for so long. So that's the interesting thing to me, to try to get as much information from the people who have experience as you possibly can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What surprised you so far? You've been in media for so long, and you and your brother have done so many great things and continue to do so many great. Congratulations, by the way, on the newest deal.
Thank you very much.
What's been different about this so far for you?
Well, first of all, I did the Hall of Fame game, and I'm still waiting to learn a lot. And as Coach said, you reach out to people that are in the space, and you try and gain as much knowledge and information to make sure you're doing a good job of it. For me, the biggest difference that's unique about this one is that it's live. You're on air. Yeah. Like the podcast stuff, I can say any dumb thing I want to Travis and cut it out. Like it doesn't make the final show. Like this one, you got to be on it. You got to offer something pointed to give the viewer or the fan to take something with them. And I look forward to that. This one's on the game. Like I'm going to be at the game for most of them. And you're going to feel that energy, and I'm a part of the audience's experience in a different way now, so I'm looking forward to it.
It's well said. Also, week 2, Philly's home opener.
Yes.
Have you thought about it?
I'm just trying not to end up like Pat in Dublin. Being at the tailgate in Philadelphia is going to be hard for me. I'm looking forward to participating in tailgates for the first time in a long time outside of Buffalo this past year, but it's going to be wild. It's going to be fun to be back there, week 2. You spend so much time as a player being on the field with the fans. I was fortunate. I was in Philadelphia for 13 years.
Yeah.
And the community is where my wife and I live. We want to keep living in Philadelphia. So it'll be a very fun experience to be out there. I think we're doing it from Xfinity Live, which is in the parking lot. Which bold decision, ESPN.
Was that Seth Martin's decision over there?
That's a little bit of a while. We'll see what happens, but it'll be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to being home and taking that on.
Yeah, you experienced Pat in Dublin. Anything you want to share with our crowd here? I'm sure you all saw Pat McAfee enjoying himself on his show.
Well, he did a great job of disguising a hangover. Because the show he did in the pub the night before, I was on like 15 minutes into the show, and he had already had 7 Guinnesses. And I was like, Pat, you better slow down, man. It's a long night.
I think he had 30 more after that, so your advice wasn't taken.
It was not. My coaching point did not hit home. But anyway, I think he brings great energy and personality that it really is helpful to me because it relaxes me.
Yeah.
And you're not as worried about messing up because you're saying, if what he's getting away with is okay.
It's going to be hard to,
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're talking about, you can edit things out of your podcast, I think that's how Pat just talks on TV. we're fine. We're not editing any of this out.
I've known Pat for a while. I went to I forget which Pro Bowl, maybe the one in Arizona was the first time I met him. he's not playing anything. Like, that's who Pat is.
Yeah.
He is, I mean, the way his mind is just always on, and he can rattle things off so quick. I'm not just saying this because he's part of the ESPN family. I mean, I think he's the most talented guy in the industry as far as that. Like, he's truly, truly special in that regard. And anybody that's not afraid to let the personality show generally is fun to be around.
We like that. Again, you guys can ask questions at any time, so feel free to raise your hand. We'll continue our conversation, but anytime you have anything, we'll bring you a microphone. You know, Jason, Monday Night Football obviously is something that you grew up watching with your family. You played in so many Monday night games. Now you are going to be part of the group, the voices that people hear when they turn that TV on to get ready for Monday night. What does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, sorry for everybody that's to listen to my raspy voice. I got Monday Night Football growing up, that was the night of football. And I think it still is. And ESPN has put a lot of resources into making sure that that's the case. And we got an incredible crew together. But even talking to my brother in the whole process of deciding, what am I going to do? And he's like, dude, you're going to be on Monday Night Football. And like right away you think, I mean, for me, I go, are you ready for some football? Come on. Yeah, so it's like, Hank had some rest, so I can do that one already.
That was great.
I mean, this is like Coach said, ESPN is an icon. That was what was on our TV growing up, nonstop. It was ESPN before you went to school, if you didn't catch it the night before, because you didn't have phones. So the only way you knew if the Indians won or the Guardians is if you watch ESPN in the morning. And if we missed it in the morning, it'd be on the moment you got home. And my brother knew everybody's stat line. I'm like, dude, you're watching too much ESPN right now. You need to read some books. But it was just like, it consumed us. The brand and the images of our childhood. So to know that I'm now going to be a part of that on Monday Night Crew with an incredible cast around me.
Yeah.
Like Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Clark and Swagoo, and Schefter's going to be up there occasionally, who I don't even know what he does in his spare time other than look at his phone.
Nothing. He's got too many phones.
But it's pretty crazy to fathom. Yeah.
Congratulations, by the way, on that. It's pretty cool to be able to be a part of this group. So it's funny because, we have a question. Let's go there first. Go right ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where you're from.
Neil Vest from Newsday. This is Jason. Speaking of Monday Night Football, you guys have an interesting opener with a guy you saw a lot through your career, Aaron Rodgers. What do you expect from him this year?
I don't know what I expect from Aaron. I expect the Jets to be very good. I mean, if you look at their last season, their defense was one of the best in the NFL. And we've seen this a few times with premier quarterbacks with experience and poise, who are great players. When you marry that up with a great, like I still remember when Tom Brady saw Tampa Bay, I was like, this is like, because Tampa Bay's defense the year before, nobody talked about it because they didn't make the playoffs. That defense was so good. And Aaron's walking into a similar situation coming off of the injury. Now, it's a little bit more of a question coming off the injury. Is he going to sustain and be the guy that he's been? I tend to think yes. Like, usually people aren't suddenly different than they've always been. Age does play a factor, but, this is a guy who's really smart. He can make any throw on the field. He makes others around him better. And you pair that up with a great side of the ball on the other side, I think it's going to be really good. Now, they're playing the best team over the last 6 or 7 years in the NFC. I mean, ever since Kyle Shanahan's gotten to San Francisco, they've been humming. So it's going to be an awesome first week. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's so much to be excited about with that game too, and a lot of interesting storylines with the 49ers. We don't know what's going on with Brandon Ayuk quite yet. They need Trent Williams to get that. I think that's more important even than Ayuk.
Well, nobody's really talking about it because it's not the sexy position. But
Trent should be.
Well, and not only that, Trent he's proven that he'll hold out. I mean, he did it in Washington for a full year. So I don't know what's going on there, but we'll see. I know that they're probably still going to be pretty good because Kyle Shanahan's a hell of a coach.
And you got Christian McCaffrey.
They got a great defense. They got a lot of good pieces in that building. Even without those guys, they are better, obviously, with those pieces. But I have a feeling the 49ers are still going to be pretty darn good in the NFC.
I can't wait to see too what it looks like to have Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams and other players on that offense to really help Garrett shine, because I think he is one of the biggest stars in our league. I think we have another question over there. Go ahead.
It's Rob Torno, Philly Inquirer. Curious about what the difficulty has been transferring to TV. Like, what's the most difficult aspect of now talking about, NFL on a studio show versus on your podcast or, on just various spots?
Is this for me or Coach or both?
Oh, for you. Sorry. I mean, it could be for both of you, but
I mean, Coach he's got more knowledge than I do. I'm trying to soak up stuff just like all you guys are right now by listening to him talk. Studio stuff it's similar, like Coach said, in you prepare and you try and make sure you're as prepared as possible for that moment. And it's also similar that because it's live and there's a human element, that at any moment it could change and things could go sideways. So I think for me, I'm just going to try and go into it as prepared as possible so that I'm comfortable to be able to go wherever the conversation goes. I've never done a studio show. I did the one earlier this year. I did the desk on Thursday night last year on Prime, which thankfully they made it easy for. It was a glorified interview, right? Like, it wasn't a lot of poignant opinions on sports or football. So I think it's a challenge I'm looking forward to. Everybody's asked me how's it different. I can't answer that until I start doing it as much as I'd like to. But I know that just like football, you surround yourself with really good people that are really talented, which I'm fortunate to have on that desk, and the resources that ESPN has. And I just get to go out there and offer my frame of reference on football, which thankfully I've been doing a lot already in the building and out of, so I feel pretty comfortable doing that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pat McAfee has entered the room.
Oh!
I just want to catch
Have you recovered yet?
Yeah, are you okay?
I was watching the West Virginia spring game, preparing for the Penn State-West Virginia game, and guess who's running around on the field with a headset? And I'm saying, I can't get away from this guy.
Which team won? Which team won?
It was the spring game.
Yeah, me versus Pat White. I was coaching one team, he was coaching the other. Which team won, Coach?
I don't remember. I couldn't tell who you were coaching.
My team won. I took some of your leadership and won. You boys are going to be such great additions to ESPN and the sports media space. I mean, Jason, the way you look is so cool, first of all, sexiest man on earth. But also the way you've been able to kind of navigate this while being a respected offensive lineman, which is not something that's normal. If offensive linemen get any attention, normally every other offensive lineman hates that person. Instead, it's been a complete opposite. Every offensive lineman thinks you're the perfect offensive lineman to represent all of them. You're the man. You're going to crush on Monday nights. And Nick, it is an honor to sit next to you on that desk. In Ireland, I was a little hungover, maybe a little still boozed up, which I do apologize for, but you were part of the beginning of that whole thing in Miss Terry Dancing. We are lucky to have you, and I can't wait to watch you guys make sports even better than ever before. I did not mean to interrupt this entire thing, although it seems like that's my life these days. I just wanted to watch you two talk. I got to plane in earlier, gonna have to change the duty time, which I know you know about, because I wanted to see you two do your thing. I'm a massive fan, and Laura, you're one of the greatest hosts to ever touch a microphone, so I'm lucky to be here. Just want to watch you guys do your shit, and obviously can't part of it, but I love you guys.
Yeah, Pat, take a seat anywhere, and you can ask questions too if you want. We're trying to get more questions going in here, so we'll get back to you. I do want to echo something that Pat said there. When we found out at ESPN that we were getting these two, we found out at different times, right? Just the internal conversations to let you guys in on how that went. It was like, wow. I mean, all of us are sports fans too, right? So to know that two of the absolute best in the business, right, but at their craft would be joining what we do, I can't even begin to describe how special it is. It's going to be so much fun to continue to watch them. Long careers, we hope, here at ESPN. And I would just say I haven't been able to spend a ton of time with you, Jason, but so much respect for everything that you've done and how you handle your family and how wonderful of a father and a husband you are. And Coach, you've always been so wonderful to me. So over the years, I just respect you so much, and you are really, really dang good at TV.
Things that you prepare for, and there's a good chance that those things will happen in the game. What I found in the broadcast area is it's much more broader in terms of what can happen. So the preparation seems to be a little broader. and maybe only 10 or 15% of what you prepared for ever really comes up,
Right.
which is a lot different than when you were coaching or playing. So that's just something that I was thinking based on preparation, which is the most important thing in either aspect as a player or coach or in broadcasting. But how broad and where the conversation can go and how can you be prepared for all those aspects is a little different.
That's so true. I mean, especially in live games, having been on the sideline for a lot of these games too, you literally never know what's going to happen. I love when we'll get people say, oh, you know, your producer must have told you to say that. And it's like, no. If I said something, it came from me because it is happening all live right there in the moment. And that's one of the biggest thrills, I think, in this entire business. Go ahead, Andrew.
Andrew Marchand from The Athletic. I think I have two questions. I'm going to ask them one at a time. As a coach, when you looked at game day, how important was that in terms of the recruiting process and wanting the show to be on campus? How did that work out in terms of your mindset as a coach?
I thought it was huge. First of all, I was one of the first, I thought, that sort of tried to open the doors to ESPN and give them access when we were building a program in Alabama, because I thought that access would actually reach a lot of people, create an image. We're trying to build a brand. This was the best way to do it. And I think it impacted recruiting tremendously. And I don't think there's anything bigger that happens on a college campus in the fall than when you have game day there. And that's a huge attraction. And the exposure that it brings to the university, the town, as well as your team is phenomenal. So all those things to me give you a chance to enhance your brand, which is what really helps you be able to recruit quality players and quality people in the program.
And then I know, especially if you had a noon game or an earlier game, you're probably just focused on your game plan. But when you were coaching, did you or the players, did you watch it? Was it on the background? It seems like when it's not obviously on your campus. How did that work out in terms of when you're on the sidelines as a coach? You know, obviously not when you're coaching, but pre-game wise.
Well, I think when you're coaching, and probably same when you're a player, as Jason was for a long time, is you're so focused on what's happening with you. It's almost the difference between, you know, looking at things through a straw. I mean, you only see a little bit, and that little bit is what's going to impact you in terms of your preparation and how you can help your team go play well. So all these external factors and the excitement around the game and all that is something that you're almost sequestered from psychologically. And you actually want your players to be sequestered from that psychologically as well, because you want them to stay focused on what they need to do to go be able to execute well in the game. So that's something that's totally different for me now, because you're looking at lots of games. Like, if we were playing a game, I was worried about our game, who we were playing, how we prepared for that game. And now you go on a game day set, and we're going to talk about a whole bunch of games, because we're going to represent college football probably better than anybody ever could in that 3-hour window that we have, you know, in game day. And that's what we want to do, and that's our goal. So you're looking at so much more rather than just, this is our game, which I think is huge.
You were watching Cam Ward film on the way over here for Miami, Florida. Watching a lot of film these days. Go ahead.
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. My name is Delaney Galbraith. I went to the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. Yeah. True Bama grad. I started my own sports media company. It's called sportsgirlsclub. It makes sports for the girls. And I know all of you are parents, and so I just kind of wanted to ask, well, first of all, Jason, why didn't Jason bring jeans for Jason? No, just kidding.
Jason never brings jeans for Jason.
Just kidding. But I did want to ask, what is your message to the younger audiences watching you guys and aspiring to these careers, and just especially young girls too? We're seeing a surge in that too.
Is that for me? All right.
Each of you.
Thank you. You know, it's hard to say, you know, aspiring to be like a professional player, because I don't think that really becomes tangible until you're in college and you really start seeing people firsthand go. At least for me, I was not a high round recruited guy coming out of high school. I would say dedicate yourself into something that you love, and that's something that you're gonna know that you're gonna want to be the best in the world at, and that you're gonna strive to do that on a daily basis. And don't get caught up in, my coach was talking about the noise. I mean, the noise can be anything. It can be, you know, outside. It can be people in your own home. It can. There's a lot of people that are going to tell you you're not good enough. You can't do it. They're going to be telling you, and maybe worse, as coaches said, called it rat poison, are going to tell you you're the best in the world.
Yeah.
And the people that really have a strong sense for where they are and what they need to improve on and what they need to do to fix the things that they need to, regardless of whether that, I have a strong feeling, I've never done anything on football, but that probably correlates in success in all sorts of fields.
Yeah.
So really try and keep an honest perspective of yourself and work.
Yeah.
Work to be the best you can.
I think the biggest key from my perspective, having been doing this at this company for 10 years and then prior to that, just very briefly, is be so well researched that no one can catch you unawares. You have so much extra preparation to where you can't be caught off guard. You can't be in a situation where you're going to be nervous or you're going to be exposed or anything like that we worry about, right, as women who, most of us have not played football. So how do we make sure that we have more knowledge than anybody? And also, I know I didn't play the game. I'm curious about the game. I love this game. It's my favorite thing in the entire world to hear from those who have done it, you know, at such a high level, and the people that I'm so lucky to work with on NFL Live and SEC Nation and Monday Night Football and all these different properties that I'm thankful to touch here. And what I've found is that you get a lot more respect when you come at it with class and knowledge and kindness. I think just treating people really well works in ways that you don't even realize, you know, when it's happening. And then for me, I'm 35, but I really think that what I hope happens in the rest of my career is that I can say, okay, that woman, because of maybe something small that I was able to do, she now has a career in this business. And really paying it forward in tangible ways is how we can continue to grow this space for women.
I love that.
You know, I think that, you know, part of all of our education, especially when we go to college, is we're all faced with challenging circumstances, whether they're academic, whether they're personal, whether they're athletic. And to me, in athletics, you get, you know, sort of confronted with a lot of challenging circumstances. So, you know, how do you react to those? How do you adjust to those? How do you adapt to those? What kind of choices and decisions do you make about those? And it goes back to, A, what do you want to accomplish? And B, like I used to ask every player when we recruited them to come to Alabama, what do you want to accomplish here? I would say, I want to get an education and I want to play in the NFL someday. And I would say to them, do you know what that entails? And most of the time, the guys can't answer that one. But these are the things you need to do. That's what process is. It's a definition of what you need to do to accomplish the goals that you have. And then we would establish what those things were that would help him accomplish those goals. But then I would go ask him on every day, all right, how you doing about getting a degree someday? And I said, I'm not so good, coach. I'd say, why? And he'd say, I missed too much class, I didn't see my tutor, whatever it is. But I am trying to teach that guy to self-assess, which is what Jason was talking about. Because eventually, you're going to be out on your own in the world, and there's going to be nobody to monitor you like your parents did, or like some coach did. And I don't care if you're male, female, it doesn't matter. It's all the same in terms of how am I going to respond to challenging.
Hey, Shlomo Sprung from Boardroom. Jason, it seems like with this new deal, you're going to have a more lucrative post-playing career than you did as a player, which is not everyone can really say they've accomplished.
Yeah.
What do you think makes what you do on your podcast so valuable, and then how are you going to carry those skills over to what you're doing here?
I don't know. I think on the podcast you get first of all, an organic, loving relationship between two brothers who are honest with each other, and it comes across. And we have good personalities that I think generally audience members appreciate and like and want to watch and listen to, which I don't know, I agree fully with that, but they're there. I think that we're very, very open people by nature, and I think that we share things, and we obviously are leading exciting lives that people want to follow, and I think that all that stuff helps that have value, because the more people that watch, the more money advertisers spend. And for me, how I'm going to try and take that here is I'm going to continue to try and be authentically myself. Nearly everybody I've talked to in this space, besides, they offer a lot of advice, but the main piece that everybody says is, be yourself, let your personality show. Be authentic and honest, that people appreciate that. And I think that I'm going to try and carry that same level of authenticity I've had in my podcast, really my whole life, throughout being a player. I think that people appreciate that. They can tell when you're trying to sell them a used car or not. And I think for me, that's my biggest thing that I think will help me have success, as well as putting the work in and preparing and making sure that you know what you're talking about.
I think there's a tremendous interest that everyone has, every fan, anybody that's involved in any kind of sports. If these guys can articulate what it's like to be a player, everybody wants to know that. How did you do that? Everybody wants to know that. For 15 years, how did you do that? And if you can articulate that, that's invaluable to people. And I think that's what these guys have shown an ability to do, which is going to be very helpful to them being successful.
That's great. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Leah Arnold with Youth Journalism International. You all have proved to be amazing leaders in your career. What would be the most valuable lesson you learned about leadership?
Coach, you go first.
Well, that's a long story for me, because to me there's three kinds of leaders. There's kind of a laissez-faire leader who just, I'm the boss, you should do what I say. And then there's transactional leaders, which is what I was for a long time, which means everything's about results. It was coach to win, coach to win, coach to win. And when you won, you patted people on the back, and that was good because you gave them positive reinforcement. But when you lost, you were negative and you didn't really teach. And if you have negative experience and there's no teaching that goes along with that, it kills morale. And that's the kind of coach I was until 1998. Michigan State played Ohio State, and Ohio State was #1 from the very beginning of the season. And I thought we were 4-5, and they were talking about firing me at Michigan State. And I thought we had no chance to win. So I called Dr. Rosen, who worked with Jason, who was a sports psychiatrist, and I said, I don't know what to say to the team. And he said, you've been too result-oriented your whole life. You're always worried about outcome. You're a transactional leader. You need to be transformational. Create a vision for these people on what you want to accomplish. Be somebody that they can emulate. Set a good example. Care more for them and what's going to help them be successful, not help you be successful. That's manipulation. And show them a value-based process that's going to create value for them. So I became a transformational leader. Now, if you look, we won that game at Ohio State, incidentally, and if you look at my record from that game in 1998 on, it is completely different than what it was before then, because you cared about other people, and players don't care what you know until they know that you care. And all that transcended into a different kind of personality on our team, better togetherness, better relationships with players that really helped us be successful.
It's amazing. I would just quickly say that I think it's about being selfless, and when you can genuinely look at the people around you on your team or whoever you're leading and say, I really want you to succeed, I want you to have more success than I have, then you will become a great leader.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to steal from both of you guys. Actually, I don't. I mean, intelligence, so I will. I think the best leaders, the best coaches, the people that are there, that are their constituents, genuinely feel like this person wants me to succeed, and they value my opinion and my frame of reference in the right way. And I think, for me, like, my job as a leader of a room is to make sure that these guys know that I care for them, that I want them to succeed, and I want us to win. And I'm willing to do and put myself in harder positions for the betterment of the collective. And I think that you do that over the course of a season, and the best teams you have strong leadership at the top, but everybody takes on that type of mentality. And it starts right with the head coach, and it trickles down to the leaders below them. The moment a player feels that a coach or a superior is looking out for themselves more than the collective, it is the beginning of the end.
You really have to make it about them. I mean, what Laura said, what Jason's saying, that it's not to help you be successful. That's manipulation. It's to help them be successful. And you create a value base where they can see that. Because if you make it about the player and you make it about them, look, everybody's selfish, everybody's self-absorbed, everybody's ambitious. Nobody wants to be irrelevant. Everybody in this room wanted to get picked in a Little League baseball game. You put the bat up and you go like this and see who gets picked. Everybody wanted to get picked. Nobody wanted to be irrelevant, and nobody wants to be irrelevant in the world. So you can take those things and make somebody really have a chance to be successful because you make it about them. You know, you can say, do it for the team. Nobody does it for the team. There's no I in team, but there is an I in win. And that's because the individuals make the team what it is. So you have to have the individuals that believe and trust and respect the principles and values of the things that you're helping them do, that it's going to create success for them. And then the team will be successful because of that.
You ready to run through a wall or what?
I am. No, but I'm serious. And this dynamic that he's talking about is perfect, because so often in sports, it is preached about the collective and that it's not about the individual. But the reality is people are intrinsically and individually motivated, and the team is only as good as the individual parts that can comprise it. And so often people miss that. They miss that it's not about you, but it is about you. It's about us through you. And like everybody's got to be bought in on an individual basis.
And every time we sit down and watch a game and figure out what went right and what went wrong, it was some individual that messed up that made it go wrong.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Whoever got your biggest ass chewing? Like of all time, if you had to think back on one. Just make me think about it.
It's a hard question to answer with that many asses chewed.
Along these lines, where I really learned, and I tell this story a lot, but we had a player, I won't mention his name, was a freshman, started as a freshman. This was back when we were first starting the program at Alabama. And, you know, he was an African-American guy, and he was walking on campus, went past the fraternity house, and they yelled some racial slurs at him or whatever, and he goes and gets in a fight with some of these guys. Well, the cops could have arrested him and given him an assault charge. They brought him to me in my office, and I said, hey man, you can't do that stuff and be on Alabama's team. He came across the table and was going to choke me and said, where I come from, people don't call you those names without you doing something about it. I said, okay, I agree with you, you did the right thing. But if they'd have given you an assault charge, you're going to be a first-round draft pick. And if they'd have given you an assault charge, you're going to be a third-round draft pick because you got a felony offense. So if you're a first-round draft pick, you're going to make $30 million. If you're a third-round draft pick, you're going to make $3 million. So even though I agree with you, is it worth it to be right for $27 million? He said, Coach, you'll never have another problem with me again.
Go ahead.
Mike McCurdy from Sports. This question is for Coach and Jason. There's been a lot of talk this week about Coach Prime in Buffalo refusing to take questions from a Denver Post columnist whose coverage they didn't like. Now that you're both joining the media, new to the media, I'd love to get your take on this story.
First of all, I have not followed it closely enough to know what was said and what has got Coach Prime so upset. So I don't know that I feel comfortable answering his response to it. I think, so I'll speak on my own, right, about how I've handled stuff that I haven't liked, what people have written. And I think, within reason, like, again, I don't know what was said, for me, you're always taking, first of all, you're trying to block out as much as is possible, because it's really meaningless. Like, what does some guy saying something have anything to do with my ability to play the game? It means nothing. And at the end of the day, if I focus on what I'm gonna focus on, and I work to get better, I control the narrative at the end of the day. If I win, and I go out there and play well, and I go out and do my job, they don't have a choice but to write that this dude won the football game, or this guy did his job well. So that's the way I take negative criticism in general. But I will preface this again, I have no idea what this guy said about Prime, and I think a lot of Deion Sanders in a lot of regards. Like, I think he was a world-class player, and he's doing something in college football that is, quite frankly, unique and transformative and very interesting to me. So I don't know the intricacies of that, so I don't really feel comfortable making a quote on that specific instance.
You know, when I first became the head coach at Michigan State and only had 1 year of head coaching experience at the University of Toledo, the media was making me out to be the till of the hunt. I mean, I had a terrible reputation in the media. So I went home one night and I said to Miss Terry, I said, you know, these people are killing me and it's not who I am. And she said, have you ever watched yourself? So she made me watch an interview where I was anxious, I was nervous, I was not very respectful of some of the people's questions that they were asking. She said, they're going to kill you until you develop relationships and communicate with these people and quit being anxious, quit being nervous, try to be positive, control, as Jason says, the things that you can control. And there's no sense in having a bad relationship with anybody because it's only going to hurt your image long term if you don't communicate with people. So no disrespect to Paul Feinbaum. I mean, he works for ESPN, and I like the guy. I tried to teach him how to play bump and run 15 years ago, and that was a disaster. Yeah. But I mean, every time we lost a game at Alabama, he killed us. It's the end of the era. I'm finished. Nick Saban's done. I never ever had a bad relationship with Paul because I understood he was doing his job. It was his opinion. It had nothing to do with what I was doing and how I was going to try to help us be successful. And I was not going to let that affect me and how I thought and what I did. So, and I think as a coach, you're probably much better taking that approach than to go the other way because, you know, I think it just turns more and more negative as you go, and I don't think that's very helpful.
It also gives the power to that person. Yeah. If somebody's affected you, you've empowered them. Like, I know it's easier said than done. Trust me, we've all said things that we've been pissed us off before, but I think when you look at it from that lens, it's like, dude, just focus on what I control. Yeah, I got you.
Paul's an Alabama fan, by the way. I think we have one more, maybe two more. Okay, good.
This one for you, Nick. A lot of change in college sports recently. Do you have any sort of thoughts on what this looks like in 5 to 10 years? Whether, you know, employee status, 2 conferences, you know, it's something that exists outside of the NCAA. Just any sort of.
Okay, so this is a hypothetical question that you're asking me.
Yes.
So, am I a coach now or am I a media person? I guess I've got to distinguish between the two in terms of how I answered it.
Whoever you want.
I'm just kidding. No, I think that you know, there's a lot of good people working on redirecting college athletics in a sustainable fashion because I don't think where we are right now is very sustainable. And I think it's important because, you know, college athletics have been so important to so many people. And I'm not just talking about football and basketball. I'm talking about if you watch the Olympics, women's sports, a lot of these people were developed in college. So I think it's important that we can keep having a system that allows us to create opportunities for all sports, male, female, revenue, non-revenue. And I'm not sure that the path we're on right now is sustainable. Now, with this new whatever you want to call it, that we're going to get handed down from the judge in terms of, it's going to include some profit sharing. I think that'll be helpful, but how they decide to distribute that money relative to Title IX, relative to revenue sports, non-revenue sports, will go a long way to say, how are we going to sustain this? So, look, college athletics has never really been a business. Nobody takes a profit. It's revenue producing, and it's got to be such a huge revenue that you reinvest a lot, but what do you do with some of it for the players? Because it's gotten so huge that players deserve something, and we need to give the players something. But I think collectives, raising money to pay players, pay for play, free agency twice a year, it's not a sustainable model. And I think I have great passion for college athletics and college football, and I think it's better than it's ever been. 12-team playoff, expanded conferences, all these things are really, really positive. But I don't know that internally we're going, and I'm talking about the big picture, 22 sports or 21 sports at Alabama, if that's going to be sustainable. It's kind of like our Mercedes business. If we're making money in sales and parts and service are losing money, eventually what are we going to do with parts and service? Shut it down and just sell cars. Well, if these people aren't making money and we don't have enough money to go around, what are we going to do with sports? You're going to cut expenses because you can't really increase the revenue that much greater. So all these things are really important factors, I think, in terms of where do we go. And I don't have the answer to the question. I just know a lot of people are spending a lot of time trying to figure it out. And behind the scenes, I'm trying to help do that as best I can because it's so important to me that it has success in the future and we continue to create opportunities for young people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I have much to add. The one thing that drives me crazy is the free agency thing. The portal that opens up twice a year. Like, I don't know, at the bare minimum, why there isn't a commitment for at least every contract you sign. There's a commitment in a number of years to like give to people around you, and like, I don't know. That's the one thing for sure. The right way I think can be fixed. Of like, hey, let's make some type of commitment here, rather than just, you can do whatever you want at any time and it's free and it's the Wild West.
And to your point, it ends up hurting players sometimes too. They think they need to transfer and they end up somewhere and that's not where they should have been. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think we have one more question.
Hello.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Coach.
Hi, I'm Skylar with People Magazine. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Jason, a fun one for you.
Okay.
Fans are obsessed with your outfits when you're not on the field.
All right.
All the way down to the flip-flops and all.
No flip-flops today, sorry. Yeah.
What can we expect from your wardrobe with your Monday night broadcasts? Will you be open to makeup for the cameras? Will you be changing your appearance, more buttoned up? Tell us.
Oh, man. Seth, do I have to wear a suit? I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. Like, who am I talking to here?
No.
It's tough to answer because I don't even know what I'm wearing tomorrow, let alone what I'm wearing in 2 weeks. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very much normally, when I'm not at a professional setting or something that my image is representative of another company, am I worried about what I wear? I wear what's comfortable and what I think is functional and something that I want to put on because it's, quite frankly, easy to put on. The reason I wear slip sandals is because I don't want to have to bend over and put on socks. That's how lazy this is outside of that. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds for myself. And I'm just going to try and wear things that represent, I guess, what I like and what ESPN will allow me to.
They said that you got it from everybody over there. You can wear whatever you want. So
be careful. Be careful.
I think the beret should come back.
Pat's letting me off. He's changed the game in that regard.
All right, I think unfortunately we have to wrap it up, but once again we want to thank you guys so much for being here today, and thanks of course to Jason and Coach for sharing so much. I do want to say we talked a lot about leadership, and the next two people who you will hear from here are the examples of exemplary leadership here at ESPN. I've been fortunate in my time here for the last decade to kind of grow up with them and learn so much from them. They've given me countless opportunities. They've given these two great opportunities as well. So without without further ado, two of my favorite people, Roz Durant, who is our Executive VP of Programming, and Bert Magnus, the President of Content at ESPN. Enjoy, you guys.
Roz and Jimmy, we talked a little bit about our programming rights agreements. We've been on a roll this year with WNBA, NBA, NCAA, CFP, the list goes on. I know Jimmy talked about it a little bit, Roz, but it's been a big 8 months. What are your reflections on all of our deals, and what can you say about them?
Let me first say, and I think I've had a chance to now meet and speak to everyone. Thank y'all again for being here. I hope you're enjoying the day and find it to be a good use of time. And Laura was very generous with her introduction. Laura, you know, Laura's kind to us because she knows I love her kids, cutest kids, so let me just put that out there, but very generous introduction. When I look back over the past almost year and a half, as you mentioned, what are my reflections? One long night, y'all. When you look at the many deals that were done over the past 18 months, it was a lot. We jumped right in. So that's definitely a reflection, and lots of time in conference rooms, so there's that. I feel very appreciative. I'm very proud of what the team has accomplished, and I emphasize the team because I am blessed to have a very dedicated, experienced team. That is how you do all the deals that Jimmy mentioned being done over the past year. It is not me, it is us, and it very much took a team. I think about just the opportunity to get to know some of our partners even better. As you sit across the table from them, understand their priorities, work together as a partner to find solutions together. That's been really memorable for me, I'd say, Katina, for the past year. Even outside of and there are other deals, right? There's NWSL, there's TGL, so there's a lot that's been happening, and I'm appreciative of the team that helped pull those together. I also look back on the past year and think about all that we've done in women's sports, just the success of women's sports. And when I talk about that, I don't talk about our commitment to women's sports. Our commitment to women's sports isn't new. This isn't about the past 18 months. I've said before, we've been seeding this for the past 40 plus years, but to see women's sports receive their due with sports fans has been very energizing and very rewarding. So there's a lot that I reflect on, but I think that the primary feeling is one of pride. I'm proud of what the team has done. I'm proud of our partners trusting us with their content and to grow their categories, and I'm proud of what we're seeing in women's sports.
Awesome.
I'll take the next one. Our media day is obviously very timely, and just earlier this week, Burke unveiled a new content structure. Burke, you want to just talk about the philosophy and your vision moving forward for your division?
Yeah, first of all, I apologize for an 8-page memo and requiring everybody to sift through nobody's bad intention or fault.
And WNBA deal collaborations with the leagues and Walt Disney World Resort with Marvel Comics. Like, to be able to do that is something that is uniquely Disney that only we can provide our partners. So now I think about the unmatched reach across platforms, the iconic IP, and our parks and other properties. It matters to our partners to be able to not only place their content with us, but to tell their stories across the various platforms and networks of the Walt Disney Company. The other thing that I would add to that is, when you think of Disney, we are storytellers at heart. And Bert just talked about his organization, and what they do better than I say anyone is tell sports and connected stories. So the storytelling that is a hallmark of what makes Disney great, and the innovation that is an important part of what we do well at Disney. We talked about the mega cast, we talked about the Toy Story, the Marvel IP. It is the combination. So I don't think it's one piece of that, Katina. I think it's the combination. We have the reach, we have the platforms, we have the various businesses, we have the storytelling chops like no other, and we have the innovation. When you bring all of that together, that separates Disney and gives our partners something here that they're not able to get anywhere else.
Burke, the session before this was obviously focused on football with Nick and Laura and Jason, and we're coming off a fantastic week 0 for college football. Got a great Monday Night Football opener, week 1 of college football this weekend. Can you just talk across the board about what are you most excited about football? This really is sort of the start of ESPN's year in a lot of ways.
He's smiling, that's a good sign.
Yeah, well, Dublin was fun. I didn't go, but it was amazing. All the content that we created out of that opportunity. Week 0, I kind of still chuckle at, which is we just kind of invented a few years ago with the help of the NCAA in terms of getting approval for play dates on that week. But listen, a couple things. That panel, I'm very excited about that panel first and foremost. But actually, before we do that, why don't I'm going to show you a video that includes one thing that I'm really excited about from a baseball perspective.
Welcome in, 6-time Super Bowl winning head coach Bill Belichick, 3-time Coach of the Year. Coach, let's get right to it.
Well, since this is my first show, I got to get another Hall of Famer who had a pretty good start to his career. In fact, that's his first preseason pass, 48-yard touchdown.
My face mask, Eli. It was I could see through the crossbar.
Can we? Yeah. What is that? How can you see it that thing?
Eli, I've always said, bad weather, bad routes. Receivers don't like to run routes in bad weather. Rain, snow, wind, cold. It's not just about catching the ball, it's just the routes aren't very good either. 3 guys covering a tight end on a 2-yard route and nobody on the seam route. Just bad communication, bad defense. And then they all look at each other like, we know something went wrong. Do we know what it is?
Bill, now right there, the mic's responsible for that guy in cover 4?
As you know, Peyton, there's 2 ways to play that. Either the mic's got to carry him and the safety stays on the weak side, or the mic drops him and a weak safety comes over and poaches strong on number 3.
That's
and so in
exactly
this case, neither one of them happened. The tight end didn't carry him and the safety didn't come over. So one of those 2 should have happened. I'm not sure which one. We're seeing these longer and longer attempts now. Yeah, that looks like my 7-iron, wide right.
All right, so that was a rehearsal that Peyton and Eli did with Coach Belichick during our preseason game at the Hall of Fame. So, asking about what I'm most excited about for football, both college and pro, are really based in some of our great talent additions. You saw Jason Kelce obviously joining Monday Night Countdown, Nick Saban joining College Game Day. Coach Belichick is going to do 11 Manning casts and appear generally during the first quarter or first half of each of those games. Obviously, there's a chemistry there already. Bill has also already started the Pat McAfee show on a weekly basis. That conversation is incredible, and it's just like football at a PhD level in a fun and funny way. And we couldn't be more happy to have Bill join the team through these 2 vehicles, and really bring his unique presentation and like I said, expert analysis of football to both of those environments. So having him on Pat's show, having him on the Manning cast is going to be incredible. It's year 2 of Scott Van Pelt on Monday Night Countdown. We've added Mike Greenberg to Sunday NFL Countdown. So all of these talent upgrades, to frankly 2 categories in college and pro that we were already loaded, in my opinion, is just got me even more excited about this coming season. Another thing that Coach Belichick's going to do with Peyton is going to be a new original series on ESPN Plus called Breakdown. Which again, if you remember a series we did years ago with Kobe Bryant called Detail, where he really went, incredibly deep into the X's and O's of games that had recently happened. We're going to sort of rerun that playbook, if you will, and have Peyton and Coach Belichick on a weekly basis both break down and look ahead to coming NFL games. Oftentimes our Monday night game, but not always. So again, ridiculous, if you're a football fan, to eavesdrop on a conversation between Bill Belichick and Peyton Manning, breaking down, a game at a really high level, meant for that level of conversation too, but in an entertaining way. So all of those things together, plus I would say the entirety of the SEC, which feels like a deal that we did a long time ago. It starts Saturday. And then an expanded college football playoff, which is just going to be, it's going to ramp up the intensity in college football all season long during the regular season, and makes for an incredible storylines from the first round games through the CFP. So football's back.
That's great. That's going to be an exciting show on Plus. Great announcement. We're going to open it up to questions. So we have people who have mics in the room. Raise your hand, and if you have a question for Bert or Rob, please let me know. We have 10 minutes.
Hey guys, Ken with the Sports Media Group. I want to go back to the I guess one of the challenges that came out earlier today, AI, personalization. And if you look back to MegaCast, I think was one of the first real personalization efforts in the industry. And people at first thought it was a waste. There were a lot of people who said, "This is why are you doing this? No one wants to watch these alternate angles." What do you see as your challenge from a programming standpoint of the demand for personalization? The alternate broadcast obviously is one as well. So what do you see the challenge from storytelling when people want more personalization? How you can staff for that? How you can kind of deliver on all those fronts?
Yeah, I mean, to us it was never a waste because, you know, Roz mentioned innovation. We always look ahead to try and be, you know, again, to try and appeal to the broadest possible audience, to try and be relevant with fans in a number of different ways. The MegaCast might have been a little bit ahead of its time, but it was never a waste of time. And we learned incredible, you know, lessons from doing that. We learned pretty quick things that worked and things that didn't work. You know, and we're going to continue to do that. That's morphed into things like, you know, the Toy Story initiative with volumetric motion capture video. It's going to be whatever's next. It can be incredibly low tech and it can be incredibly high tech, and you can capture audience in both ways. And you know, we're just going to continue to do that for big events. I think it does. I think the one thing we have learned is that it really does take a big event to do an alt cast around, right? You know, I don't think we're to the point yet where it's so personalized or so specialized that, you know, you can really do it for a run-of-the-mill regular season game in Sport X or Sport Y. I think that day will come, by the way, but I think right now our focus is on continuing to aggregate audience across platform, across technology, however it's possible.
And our partners love it. There's not a short list of partners who want in on the Allcast. There is a long list. So to Bert's point, it's not a small undertaking. So we have to be thoughtful about what makes most sense. But of course, everyone is looking for not just reach, but for audience expansion. And when you think about what's done with Toy Story, what's done with Big City Greens, and there will be others, but the different audiences where there is still a main broadcast or a main production for the fan who wants the main production, but there are other solutions and other options and other, it's about that, it's about options and other options around big games that are deserving of this. We find that it only adds to the audience. So when we can do that and when it makes sense, our partners appreciate it.
Next question? Oh, Brian?
Hi, Brian Steinberg from Variety. I know you just hired you're going to hire a vice president of Super Bowl.
Yes. Oh, that for a job title.
Yeah, the game in 27 coming up. First time Disney's had it in umpteen number of years.
Yeah.
Given all these things, you've tried new formats, all casts, etc. Are there any visions you have for different ideas how to play that over ESPN and Disney when you do have it in 27?
I mean, first of all, it's been, our last Super Bowl corporately was Super Bowl 40 in Detroit. So this will be 61. So it's been a while, and we're a different company. This sort of informed the idea of creating a position to essentially be a project manager on this effort while we still have, it's 2.5 or so years before it happens. We already know it's going to be in LA, which is very convenient from a Disney perspective. We're as you can tell from being here on campus, a lot of stuff goes on all day long here. My wife is really fond of saying there's no off season, which is totally true. But that also informed having a dedicated person to really run this project, because by the time February 14th, 2027 comes around, and by the way, yes, the Super Bowl is on Valentine's Day. I don't know if you guys are tracking on that yet, but the Super Bowl is on Valentine's Day. That ought to set up for some interesting things. But we think it's really, really important that a person who can cut across the Walt Disney Company entirely is dedicated every single day when they get out of bed to, for us to do this Super Bowl like it's never been done before. And I don't want to throw out any specific concepts because there's lots of ideas that are percolating already, but it's going to be special, and we're excited about that.
Oh.
Jason, go ahead.
Burke, you were talking before about Belichick and what he's going to do for the network. You guys just had Nick Saban in the room. Obviously, they have a great relationship that spans decades. You were talking about unique original content. Are there any plans to have them collaborate together to create some on-air content?
Yeah.
With the U.S. Tennis Association. So ESPN will continue as the exclusive home of the U.S. Open through 2037. Here in the U.S., in the Caribbean, and in Canada with TSN and RDS. We'll also continue with exclusive Spanish language rights in the U.S. on ESPN Deportes. So we are very excited. I talked earlier about our continued commitment to women's sports. Tennis is one of those categories, one of those sports that lends itself to that naturally. And we are proud of what they've accomplished. We're proud to be part of their story and very excited for this to be our longest term tennis agreement with U.S. Open. You heard it here first.
And I will be asking Ross for tickets in 2027.
Me, of course. Who made you the fashion police? Bam! Right here! Bam! Oh, what? Oh, but scratch!
Do you see these working conditions I put up with?
On the run.
Yep, yeah, go. With Steve Young.
Just so we know, this is bad beat. Sit in! Why do people do this? What is the point? That's where the winners are. Don't let me get hot, baby!
What it feels like I was cheating on you, and then I brought the people that I was cheating on you with right into your face, but I love that.
It's okay, though.
I know. We can make this work.
But the football people.
Oh!
Hey, Justin Tucker was going to beat your ass, dude.
You must always have, as I do. Oh, you cheated. Oh, you cheated. Oh, now I get on the bus. There you go. Now we got it. Now you don't have to do it. You want me to say go dogs or what?
Can you? Too late, we got it.
No.
Then I could go on and on. I can explain every natural phenomenon. The tide, the grass, the ground. Oh, that was Maui just messing around. I could have been like buried its guts. Sprouted the tree, now you got coconuts. What's the lesson? What does it take away? Don't mess with Maui when he's on a breakaway.
Where's Spencer? Spencer edited that last night. How rare is it for everyone here to be in Bristol? Like, it just doesn't happen anymore. And so watching that and then watching you guys and just thinking about how awesome it is to work with all of you and how disappointed it must be for you guys to have to work with me every day. It's a range of emotions. Thank you all for being here. I know it's been a long day. It's hot outside. Fluorescent lights. The conditions are suboptimal, but hopefully we can send you out on your way with a good time. So with that, Mr. Van Pelt, we're entering the 10th anniversary in September of your edition of Sports Center. Over the past decade, a lot of things have changed. You guys have stayed on top for a very long time. How have you done that?
I don't think there's any real secret to just being, embracing what we've always been, which is just we enjoy sports, you know? I think that's something that Pat and his guys do. It's about, you don't have to be positive in the face of things that deserve to be scrutinized, but I think that, you know, sports connects us like very few things. And we are lucky enough to come on after the biggest events, and I think we've created a lane that's pretty comfortable for me as a host with my guy Steve and our crew behind the scenes who deserve so much credit, and for our guests and our audience. I think it's a comfortable place. I just want to say this at the beginning, just the idea of being here with this crew, we've never all been together at one time, and it's fantastic to do it. I was just saying this to Greenie, I have such an appreciation, like we get handed the baton, all right? Joe and Buck hand us a gigantic number on Monday nights. It's our job not to F it up, okay? And I think we figured out a decent way not to do that. But I give so much credit to what's going on in the mornings And what goes on from the early Sports Center to Greeny to Stephen A. to Pat and his guys that are like bat and clean up. I think Burke said early on it was like murderer's row, and it's true. I mean, their ability to create and maintain and now cultivate an audience in the morning, to me, is astounding. And I give them an enormous amount of credit. I have so much appreciation for it. What we're trying to do at night, as I say, is just maintain who we've always been. I've been doing this a long time, and luckily I still enjoy it. I wake up every day excited because something exciting and different and new will happen every day, and we're the ones that get to come on and talk about it. It's not difficult. You don't have to fake enthusiasm for that. And I think gratitude is an important thing to have. I mean, my guy EJ and I talk about it all the time. I got a get-to job, not a got-to job, and we have one of those. So I think just maintaining that sincere appreciation for what it is we get to do, and we'll do it as long as they ask me to, is really a very simple key. I think hopefully people can identify with that sentiment.
Amen. Elle, you had a front row seat to an incredible women's college basketball season, culminating in almost 19 million viewers watching the national championship game. How would you like to see ESPN continue to play and grow the women's game and women's sports in general moving forward?
First of all, also echo everything that SVP said. This is super cool. I had to check 3 times. I was like, y'all want me to do it with them? Wow, okay, cool. I kind of joke that I think ESPN is already like the Mondo Duplantis of women's sports. Do you guys know who that is? Yeah. Right? Like he sets the bar and then he just keeps breaking his own record. So that's good, right? Like we have owned this space more than anyone else has, and I think that what we're seeing right now is the fruits of our labor, how intentional we've been for many, many years in platforming these with women. So more of the same with that, right? More platforming and all of those things. But I also think it involves making sure that we're amplifying and centering women analysts, and also the personalities as well. Because it can be as intentional and literal as having a women-centered show that is specific to whatever respective women's sports. But I also think it's just in that we can organically sort of skew female if we are just amplifying the voices that cover those women. I give so much credit to Pat McAfee. My mentions and how I interacted with fans looked very different after he was gracious enough to extend an invitation to come on and talk about the women's basketball tournament, because it was a totally different fan base from what I'm used to on the 6 p.m. or from who listens to my show. And so I think it's about that as well, because ultimately, if you fall in love with the women who are talking about these, if you trust us, if we built a trust with you and rapport with you, then you're more apt to not only follow us, but believe us when we tell you that this storyline is big or that this game is really big. So I think it's twofold. More of the same of what we're doing in terms of platforming the athletes, but then also centering the women that cover it as well. Awesome. Touch self-serving, but what else?
Pat, you're coming up on an anniversary at ESPN as well. It's not 10 years, but it's the 1-year anniversary of the show debuting. It was September 7th. You've been here about 1.5 years though. You did the deal with Jimmy and Bob in May of 23. So looking back on the past 1.5 years, how would you evaluate how it's going?
First of all, I will echo the sentiment of everybody that just spoke, including you, Foss. It is an honor to be on the stage with you, and I think that was a massive piece of the deal getting done with Jimmy and Bob. Whenever I wanted to take my show to a network and find a home, like go to a place that can help amplify, help maybe book the show, help it kind of take it to the next level, I shopped at a lot of places. I negotiated with a lot of people. It was covered by some of the folks in here, how it all went. And whenever Jimmy and Bob kind of came to me and really said that they would like me to join the ESPN lineup, it was such an honor because of the network that has been built on the backs of the people that are sitting on the stage next to me. So getting a chance to be on a network that you guys have built and carried was certainly a dream come true, to be alongside of you. And I think the announcement initially was received very negatively by my people. So my fans that watch digitally for the last 5-6 years as we've been live every single day, even through the COVID time, we were the only show that was still alive. We didn't miss a single day because of the laws in Indiana versus New York City and California. So we had a lot of people that spent some very tough times with us every single day on their phones, being the doofuses that made them escape from what was kind of happening. So whenever I announced that I'm getting a chance to join this legendary network alongside these incredibly talented people, my fans were mad about it. My fans were not happy about it. They thought that my show was going to change. They were very loud about that. They attacked me and my guys in a lot of different ways. And we knew that the show was not going to change, but they certainly couldn't wrap their minds around it. And then whenever the show starts, and the way it was kind of rolled out and announced, it was more so announced as like a talent acquisition, when really it was like a licensing rights deal. Just like what happens with the college football playoffs, just like what happens with the NBA deal that just took place, just like what happens with NFL for multiple Monday Night Football games. We are the ones that are just providing the show, and ESPN is paying us to air the show.
Programming network. We prided ourselves on being ahead of the curve. And so we were ahead of the curve when it came to embracing him. And so I thought about all of those different things, and I look at what First Take is, and I literally take a nugget, a piece of material from every single person up here, and what it represented, and I saw what was relatable to the audience, and then I try to remember that when I'm following up one of the greatest hosts in the history of the business, and Greeny was coming on from 8 to 10 o'clock, and then it's my turn, it's 10 a.m., and it's like, all right, here we go. He set the table. Now I got to knock this bad boy out of the park and hand over the baton to Pat and his crew and everybody else down the line. And that's how it works.
Green, Stephen A. mentioned you setting the table. I've seen it, 6 in the morning, you come in and you're cooking. Everybody else is just like a little asleep, a little hungover, not fully there. You come in and you're firing. You've seen it in the Thunderdome too. They've got.
He's cutting a sandwich, right? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I eat everything with a knife and fork, yeah.
Are you talking?
I think they cut it for, I think Greeny has it cut for him.
Yeah. But you see it, he talks about that setting up the table, the boys are watching it, everyone's watching it as you set the agenda for what we're going to talk about until sports come on again. What's your North Star as you're doing that, aside from the sandwiches?
Well, I can try and encapsulate what Stephen A. was saying in a phrase. So when I first started doing talk shows in Chicago on the radio in the 90s, a very smart program director said to me, your job as a talk show host is not to create interest, it's to reflect it. And I've always remembered that, and that has always been my driving motto. And I think I said this on your show one time, Pat, when you were asking me about, I forget what it was now, but why don't you do more of this on your show? I have no agenda other than what I think is going to be of the greatest interest to the greatest number of people. That goes back, we did that on Mike and Mike before there was social media, before we had this kind of immediate feedback. And now we can get quarter hour by quarter hour, even minute by minute ratings and see what stuff is resonating and what stuff is not. I'll give you a great example of that. People will sometimes talk about, all you guys do is you ride the Dallas Cowboys, you talk too much about the Dallas Cowboys. All right, I did the NBA shows with Stephen A. for 2 years. We were in Denver at the NBA Finals. The Denver Nuggets are on the verge of winning their first ever NBA championship. They're in the finals for the first time. They're going to win. Stephen A. and I are walking through the arena, and the fans in the arena are yelling cowboy stuff at Stephen A. This stuff resonates. So I don't have an agenda. A great example of that would be the explosion in popularity of women's sports that have come along in the last few years. I've said many times, in my 32 years that I've been hosting shows on TV and the radio, the two biggest changes by far have been technology and the enormously increased role of women both as participants and for my purposes, more importantly, as viewers and as listeners. And you have to constantly evolve and be serving the audience what they want. Because at the end of the day, ESPN pays us, but we work for the audience. They're the ones who decide if we have a job or not, because if they stop watching, then ESPN, I think I saw Burke in here, they're going to go find someone else. So it's as simple as that to me. My North Star is, what do I think is going to resonate with the largest possible number of people in the most meaningful way? There's really no other agenda.
Elle, you are part of SportsCenter, obviously, but so much more than that. You've got Game Day, you've got SportsCenter on Snapchat, you've got Around the Horn, which is still on the air. We're still doing it. We love it. ESPN is more than a mile wide. What would you like to see us go deeper on?
Well, I think clearly I need to be invited on more shows. There might be one or two I've never done. So I would never be audacious enough to tell anybody what they should do on their respective show. That's certainly not one that I just sort of guest appear on. But I would say I have worked really hard in my career at being versatile enough to be able to go on many different platforms and serve whatever that show needs. And I'd like to consider myself unique, but certainly I'm not a unicorn. And I think that what I would love is the reason that I've had the opportunities to do so many different things is because people think outside of the box when it comes to me in terms of what a typical SportsCenter anchor looks like. And I remember, I've been here 8.5 years now, and I remember when I first came in, it was like, well, you know, what are the chances I could do this or do radio or do, and they were like, but you're a SportsCenter anchor, that's not, you do SportsCenter, and like, that's what you do. And so I think that one great example of that was what Stephen A. allowed SportsCenter to do just a couple of weeks ago. He was gracious enough to extend his platform to allow SportsCenter anchors who didn't and usually don't have an opportunity to show and flex a different muscle. They were so geeked Stephen A. Like, there's people that have worked here for years that were like, this is one of the biggest things for me because it allowed them to show chops in a different way. I would love for us to be able to think outside of the box a little bit and have a little bit more cross-pollination. I think sometimes in a place this big, you can exist in silos, and certainly you understand why. Like, every single entity is its own thing. But I would love for there to just be a little bit more of a symbiotic relationship and just understanding that there's so many people here that are incredibly talented, and if you think outside the box a little bit, then good things happen. Essentially, we're all here to do the same thing, which is entertain and educate and serve sports fans. And I think there's just really creative ways to do it. And I echo what SVP and Stephen A. said. When we signed Pat McAfee, I've been a fan of Pat for a long time. I met him doing Get Up years ago when I was filling in for Rutledge at the time. And I was like, oh, we're shaking it up. Like, we're doing something very different. I love that and I dig it. And I hope that there's more of that, more innovating, more thinking outside of the box, and really sharing across platform some of the incredibly talented people that work here.
Out of me. We're in the middle of doing SportsCenter, and she goes, Greenie, I can't help but notice you're wearing a green tie there. Is that because the Jets are playing? And my first thought was, I'm going to get fired. Right. Oh my God, I'm going to get fired. They're going to think I was rooting for the Jets on the air. Then we started Mike and Mike about 2 years after that. And there were a lot of people who criticized me like crazy all over the country for openly rooting for my teams.
I'm the ambassador for HBCU Week. Over the last few years, we've generated about 12,000 scholarships in excess of $8 million for HBCU students.
Hell yeah.
That's always a plus, and I just can't, I'd be remiss in neglecting to give tremendous gratitude to ESPN and Disney. One of the years we had the event at Disney World in Orlando, and HBCU Week was basically just started out of Delaware years ago before they came to me asking me to be the ambassador, and Disney jumped right on board and has been incredibly supportive of me and what we're trying to do with HBCU. Everybody up here who's helped First Take along the way, because making First Take what it has been and what it has become has been a gravitational force for so many people who want to be associated with the show, to make big things happen that extend far beyond this business, for folks that are less fortunate than us, that are looking for a helping hand and looking to be uplifted. And we've been able to pull that off, so I'm incredibly grateful to everybody up here. Thank y'all so much.
Great.